Generally, when I see things that are new to me, for example, a lot of the work that is currently at Gary Manuel, all the large encaustic work is actually based on a trip to Tahiti. The light there is different than anywhere else you've experienced. You're in the water all the time. You're just seeing like coral and things that you're experiencing for the first time, really. And the way I process that is I paint. I've grown up and lived in large cities all my life, and yet for some reason I'm obsessed with landform and landscape. One of my favorite shapes is probably just this very lazy curve, which is something you encounter a lot in landscape, or like a river. In some ways I exist to make order in the world, and patterns are very much part of that. And I'm also just really good at recognizing them. What is interesting to me is when you take a pattern which is very rigid in itself, and then you introduce a little change, a little iteration. And what does that do? How does that propagate? It's an endlessly interesting subject for me, and so I keep exploring it in my work. I believe it was right around this time of year when I am just dying for light and bright and to sort of see spring, so I start using yellows, greens, and linden green is like my favorite, probably one of my 3 top like watercolors. And so I've really tried to replicate that like translucency and that young, fresh green, like the first green you get when things are just putting out their leaves. My in-laws are in Australia, so I've traveled back and forth quite a bit. I've seen a lot of Aboriginal art, and I found that really interesting because things are represented in non-pictorial ways, and every tribe has its own sort of visual language. It started me working on a painting a few years back, and it sold, and I really, really wanted to have a piece of that for myself to have. And now that I have a number of years of experience, my technique has gotten much better and cleaner, and I thought I want to execute this in a way that I just couldn't make back then. And also I wanted to bring colors that at the time I just wasn't as adept at using. And so it's this piece that is kind of a younger, better, crisper, spring-like thing. I find whenever I'm working, the next idea always comes in the middle of the thing I'm working on. And so I made kind of a pact with myself very early on that I was gonna finish. Otherwise I would just never finish, because the next idea is always the coolest thing you can imagine. And I think sometimes you really have to see the work to actually understand why you made it. For me, that's the most sort of interesting thing, is I've started making stuff with my hands. There's something in your brain that's been tricked off by something you saw or something you heard. I'm synesthetic, so half the time I'm painting things I'm hearing, because to me music is color and pattern. And you kind of actually have to see it complete before you can go, oh, I understand now how I was thinking. So in a way, making things is a way of processing my inputs. Every day you see something, and there's just not enough time in the world to make all the things that are made in response to what you see and what you experience. It's just the endless state of wonderment. That's one of the great things about being a working artist in Seattle, is that just you never cease wondering and exploring and feeling inspired. And it's a very, very lucky place to be, honestly. It really is.